and go out here and show these people, look, I know you feel it. I know it. Just get up. We know they did some busters. Just get up. We know they did some sucker. Just get up. Find the discipline. Find the courage. Because if you don't, the alternative is to wither away and die inside and develop some malady in your body or some addiction. Get up. Many of us had no intention of going down this road for our lives. I didn't plan on ever getting on social media. I despised social media, if you want me to be honest with you. This wasn't my plan. Most of us, probably not. Yeah, you heard me right. I despised social media until I got on it. And it's not even that. I was pushed. The calling or the desire wasn't even mine, I don't think. It was just I was, propelled to get on here and start talking. I know my podcast is not the best. I know it's not the best, production ever. Cool. But the message is good, right? We were compelled to do this stuff and not have the support of the people we grew up with and know and our parents. That is tough and difficult to deal with. But we found the discipline. And even I failed a few months back. I started this podcast for 8 months. Then I was over it. And I realized I needed it. A lifetime of healing. We don't want that, Mom and Dad. I had to pick the podcast back up. With all due respect, y'all. Not even for y'all. I told you this on my first podcast back. This was for me. To expel this stuff so I can get on. Especially those days where, y'all know what I'm talking about. Where you're just not feeling it and the stuff consumes you for that moment, for that day. And you're out of, the energy to fight it. This is where this podcast comes in for me. Those posts that you see from me on Instagram, those come from one of those days. That's why they come maybe, I don't know, what am I posting now? Like once a week. That's where they come from. That place. Because sometimes you feel so unlucky that you were born in such a religion. Out of the hundreds and millions of people, probably the billions of people over time that have come through this country in the United States, that we were unlucky enough to be born in this. Right now, supposedly, they only have 8 million members totally in the United States. What is that, like 3% of the population? I don't know, do the math. And we got, for real? Jehovah, Jesus, Holy Spirit, we was the chosen ones for that. Especially when you have those days like I do and you look back, like you look at some of these people out here and some of these kids out here who are having this early success as musicians, and it's not to hate on them, right? And you hear them talking about how hard they worked. It's like, what do you mean, dude? You're 20. At most, you probably put in 3-4 years of work. You understand what I'm saying? It's not to hate on you if you're a young musician. That's not what I'm saying. Check the principle of what I'm saying. We didn't get that. We didn't get that opportunity to be young. If you're 20, that means you knew at least by 10 years old what you wanted to do. And you were given the freedom to pursue it. I was watching an interview with Kobe Bryant one day, and he said, yeah, I got lucky in life. He said, but you're even luckier if you get to know what it is you want to do when you're young. They took that from us. And it put us on a path to do something that we wasn't really intending to do. We don't want a lifetime of healing. And I know right now you can hear the resentment in my voice. Because that's what it's like for people who's, what did Chelsea say? Chelsea Horton did an interview with her where they rewire your nervous system for fear. And so you spend your whole life operating that way. For me, it was mostly just frozen. What do I do here? What do I do here? My dad didn't talk to me about much. Some things he did, but most of the stuff he talked to me about was ancillary, peripheral stuff. You understand? Not how to plan out your life, how to talk to a woman, how to hang out with your homeboys, hang out with the fellas, how to plan for success, how to save. Those aren't the lessons we got. And trust me, if you don't learn those things, y'all already know. mess around and don't get your money right. That's another trauma. Yeah, not having your money right is another trauma because we weren't taught that. We didn't have that opportunity as young people in that window where our minds are impressionable and we soak up the game from conception to 7 years old. That's when your kids are soaking up life's game. Whatever you're showing them, that's what they're going to be. And I say this every episode. Imagine those of you who are non-witnesses teaching your children not to accomplish anything. And the accumulation of all these things makes you make horrible decisions. But yeah, let me speak for me. Coming out into the world, I actually had my first job at 17, but that ended in, dude, he was working out of his house. And I don't even know why I'm telling you this. But anyway, he just was gone one day. An abandonment thing. You know what I mean? That's probably the other part of why I was going from job to job. My very first job. Showed up for work one day. And dude moved. His whole house was cleaned out. It was me and another chick working in there. And he moved. He was gone. And the day before, a few days before, I remember some dudes came there looking for money. Some payment he owed him. He was gone. From then on, I was job to job. That's probably part of it too. Let me keep it a buck with y'all. What I'm saying is, when you come out of that type of ideology into the world, man, your decision making is horrible. Don't just listen to me. Go talk to Jehovah's Witnesses. Go talk former Jehovah's Witnesses before they got their life together. If they have. Some people haven't and never will. Don't get it twisted. Some people are not going to recover. And I hate that. I do hate that they're not going to recover, mom and dad, because of what you taught them. And then you have the nerve to separate your paternal, maternal, whatever the word is, connections to your children, separate it and not talk to them over something you did. I think about that with my mom all the time. I told y'all before when I was a kid, we used to bang about it. We used to go at it, only to find out that she was wrong. I am the child. This was going on before I reached my teens, me and my mom hashing it out. I am the child saying something is wrong. There's something wrong, and you're continuing to overlook what your kid is saying. Isn't that part of parenting? What's going on with you, son? Talk to me, baby girl. What you talking about? What you feel? That never happened. And to be an adult, 45 years old, to know she was wrong, you should hear. Let me be honest with y'all. I told y'all when I came back, I'm going to tell y'all the truth about how I feel about my mom. And I would curse her to a second death because of all the grief her belief system caused me and the rest of my brothers and sisters. They're going to die the way they are, miserable and despicable, doing despicable shit every chance they get. And my little brother told me one day, he texted me, he said, you know what? I think the reason why our family's so fucked up is because of this religion. And it brought joy and hurt all at the same time because he was right and that I felt vindicated because I've been saying this for years to my family. But I would curse my mother in my head after her death up until, honestly, over the last few years until, it sounds crazy and it sounds, I don't know if you guys remember a few episodes back, I told you, I feel like there was an attempt to apologize on her part. Yes, she is deceased. I know this sounds crazy. Maybe it's wishful thinking. But the point is, I would say some horrible things in my head to my mother about the pain she caused. Because I couldn't figure out why her death, despite all that, my mother was a awesome human being, right? She was a helper, the helping type. That's where I get it from. That's the only reason I can be here telling you guys this stuff and opening up to you is because my mother was a helper, right? People come to the door from the neighborhood, knock on the door, I need $5. My mother would crowbar that money if she had to for my father to give to them. And these same people were at her funeral. But I would say all these horrible things to her because of her forcing something on me. My mother and father and your mother and father forced a lifetime of healing on you that you didn't want. I'd rather spend my time and putting my energy into figuring out how am I going to buy this piece of land over here and then turn around and resell it? Am I going to use an agent? They're going to cut into some of the profit that the land isn't worth that much? Or am I going to take the time and do the labor and write up the paperwork myself? I'd rather spend my time focusing on that than your head is not in the right place today, James, or Sally, or Patty, or Thomas. We got to get your head back and spend all day doing that. You can lose a whole day or days trying not to go down the rabbit hole of the negativity that we were raised in. You can be going through having a fantastic month, right? Fantastic weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. And then somewhere in there, that devil is going to come knocking on your shoulder. Hey, remember us, the Jehovah's Witness religion? Remember how we used to mess with your mind? And you have to fight going down that rabbit hole of self-loathing, especially for all the decisions you made while you were still sleeping, while you were sleepwalking. Yeah, I was sleepwalking too. We all were, until we figured it out. And what they say, when you know better, you do better. But for sure, I was sleepwalking. And you really don't realize, in your sleepwalk that you're creating all this havoc too. I'm not guilty of that. But what I can say is, there's not a soul walking on this planet that I didn't say, if I was guilty, I'm sorry. I didn't understand why I did that, or this is what was happening, so my bad. Not a single soul. I'm not on my soapbox. I'm just saying, once I realized I created a problem, hey, my bad, player, or young lady, my bad. I'm sorry. Because you're hiding, you're acting that way because you haven't dealt with your stuff. You haven't started your lifetime of healing. Who wants that, mom and dad? That energy can be best used elsewhere. If you get your kids out the gate and throw them Watchtower books and throw that Bible away, throw that stuff away. Throw it away. Most of the people who are hell-bent on holding on to those things, their emotional health and well-being is out the window. You don't have to believe me. Just start talking to people. And just because they're not saying nothing crazy, don't mean they're okay. Your mental well-being can be compromised if I show you some facts to something. If I tell you, look, the sky is blue, and you're telling me your faith says God says it's red, your emotional, mental health has been compromised. You don't have to be schizo. That is still compromising. If I can give you factual stuff, and you sit here and look at me, well, I'm still going to trust the Lord and blah, 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 and the Holy Spirit and Jesus, and calling everything conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory is outside your window. And Jehovah and Jesus and the Holy Spirit still ain't here. And guess what? They not coming. You got to do the work. I have to do my work. And it's not easy, and it's not for the light or the weak. Keep your lifetime of healing, mom and dad. Give me something else. Give me something else. Give these kids something else. Stop handing out trauma. Religious trauma. I didn't even know that was a thing. Told you that before. I didn't know that was a thing until I got on YouTube. So I started listening to social media, figuring out, oh, this is what happened to me. Us. Some people go to counselors, and I give those people all the credit in the world to do that. That is a whole nother level of strength. But our society has made these people think it's a weakness. Can you imagine, for those of you who've never been, because I've never been, what it takes to take your innermost everything, hurts, pains, and go sit down with a person who probably doesn't even look like you and say, this is where I'm hurting. All these places, the broken places, the muck, the mire. That is a whole nother level of strength. You don't do that if you're not strong. I don't care what people tell you. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to the person that ain't went, who refused to deal with theirs. Yeah, it's a shitty deal. A lifelong healing is a shitty deal. But what else do you have? If I can quote the legendary Tupac Shakur, no, you got to find a way to survive, because they win when your soul dies. Baby, please don't cry. That's the name of the song. Baby, don't cry. You got to keep your head up even when the road is hard. Never give up. And that, my friend, is who taught me that no matter what happens, how you hurt, Through every dark night, there's a bright day.